Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out the Effortless Quiet Storm Cool of Sade and Smooth Operator. New British canon.
Or I could have been called Sade and I was called Sade. Sade, really. But in England, everybody goes Sade. In America, people tend to go Sade.
Sade?
Britain is not known for its soul music, but in the 1980s there was a nostalgic wave of British acts that were enthralled by the sound.
Right.
Phil Collins was covering the Supremes. Soft Cell and Dixie's Midnight Runners were in love with obscure R&B 45s. And there was an influx of white-fronted plastic soul groups like Spandau Ballet, ABC, and late-era Roxy Music. But adding some legitimacy and heat to the mix was Sade. Their debut album, Diamond Life, defined the 80s for many. Its warm sensuality, the soundtrack to many an intimate moment. While singles like Your Love Is King, When Am I Gonna Make a Living, and The Sweetest Taboo quiet stormed the charts. But who was this band? This is New British Canon, and this is the story of Smooth Operator.
Okay, so did I pronounce the name right, Sade? I thought it was her. I thought it was the person. I didn't know it was the whole band. I've definitely heard Smooth Operator. Probably 1,000 times. You know, it's everywhere. There was another song he mentioned that I've heard. The Sweetest Taboo. I've heard that one, but I don't think I've heard Your Love Is King or When Am I Gonna Make a Living. So it's the band, it's not her. I've heard about this soul movement in the north of England. This is the one that happened in the 80s, but there was one that happened, I think in the late 50s, early 60s, there was a soul movement in England, or in Britain in general, and then I guess it came back in the 80s. Oh yeah, Phil Collins did You Can't Hurry Love, and Soft Cell did Tainted Love. Right. Yeah, I didn't know that Tainted Love song was a cover until years after the Soft Cell version. Okay, I have a lot to learn about Sade. I need to hear what she said at the beginning about the pronunciation.
Moment.
Hang on. Or I could have been called
Or I could have been called Sade and I was called Sade. Sade, really.
Sade. Sade. Wait.
Or I could have been called Sade and I was called Sade. Sade, really.
Sade. Oh, she just says the E a little different.
But in England, everybody goes Sade. In America, people tend to go Sade.
When I first read it, I thought it was Sade. I mean, why wouldn't it be Sade? Right? Where's the H? Anyway, okay. But first, it's sponsor time.
This video is sponsored by Surfshark.
Y'all be sure to go to Surfshark and buy stuff. Pride and the Origins of Sade, the band. 1980 to 84. Clacton, Pride, and a Deal with Epic. They got a record deal. Song, Cry Me a River.
The story of Sade the band begins with Sade the singer. She was born Helen Folashade Adu in Ibadan, Nigeria in 1959. After the dissolution of her parents' marriage, from the age of 4 she would grow up in the southeast of England, spending her teens in the retirement destination of Clacton in Essex. Her nurse mother didn't have much in the way of an LP collection.
Clacton. Show me on a map. Clacton. UK. That's a fun word to say. Clacton. Ah. Oh. Y'all, that looks like a nice place. It's far enough away from London. Close enough. How far from London exactly? 26 hours to walk it. Okay, Google. Like a 2-hour drive. Hell yeah. That's nothing. Okay. Clacton. What you got in Clacton? Beautiful beaches. A pier. Ferris wheel. No, what is that? Yeah, Ferris wheel. Oh, they got 2 Ferris wheels. Pirate boat. A golf cart. Ferris wheel. A gazebo. Pier. McDonald's. Oh, this looks familiar. Is Clacton where the Teddy Boys and the Mods fought? Okay, yeah, it was. One of them. It was also Margate, Brighton, and Bournemouth. Wow. Yeah, okay. Clacton. She may have been there for that. Sade, were you out there with the Mods? Beating some Teddy Boys down? Actually, I think she'd probably be a Teddy Boy. She's more of a motorcycle gal, I think. She's probably running over those scooters. Clacton.
Her nurse mother didn't have much in the way of an LP collection, so the young Adu gained her musical education via pirate radio station, Radio Caroline, acquiring a particular affinity for Donny Hathaway, Bill Withers, Gil Scott-Heron, Ray Charles, and Nina Simone.
Oh, I love Nina Simone. Her voice, it's kind of androgynous. But y'all, for my American friends who don't know, the pirate radio came about because the BBC was pretty strict and uptight about what music they would play. But these music lovers would go out on a boat into international waters and broadcast other music into Britain. And that's how people got all this amazing music that the BBC wouldn't play.
Acquiring a particular affinity for Donny Hathaway, Bill Withers, Gil Scott-Heron, Ray Charles, and Nina Simone.
She has
By the late
great taste.
70s, as Clacton offered little future for a young person, Adu set her sights for London, where she studied fashion at St. Martin's College. Her evolution from music appreciator to musician came by accident. Completing her degree and starting work as a menswear designer and part-time model, Adu would frequent the London nightclub scene, and her bohemian look, straight-back ponytail, tight black clothing, bright red lipstick, and signature gold hoop earrings stood out within the more is more new romantic scene.
Y'all, to me, she looks perfectly 80s. Maybe that look came from her, I think. Or she was tapped into something. Because that's so, those big earrings, that lipstick, the hair like that, that's so 80s.
Signature gold hoop earrings stood out within the more is more new romantic scene. Despite having never sung before, her effortless cool got her an audition to be in the London funk band Pride. What people don't know
Background
is
singer.
that when I auditioned for them, they rejected me. I was so shocked. It wasn't a question of never failing at anything, but all the things I'd really wanted to do, till then, I'd done. After being able to find no one else, Pride allowed Adu to join as a backing singer. The seven-piece group would relentlessly tour London and the South between 1981 and 82.
Wow. They rejected her, but no one else came to audition. So they hired her. That's not a great way to start a relationship, is it?
Would relentlessly tour London and the South between 1981 and 82, trying to get their name out. At the same time, Adu had been writing her own songs, with the help of saxophonist Stuart Matthewman, a Northern Soul devotee from Hull. Adu and Matthewman would fill in as a support act for Pride. Their minimalist soul sets featuring an understated cover of Julie London's Cry Me a River.
Well, you can cry me a river.
And an early version of Smooth
That sounded like, almost like late era Billie Holiday, doesn't it?
River.
That vibrato. Vulnerable.
And an early version of Smooth Operator, generating buzz. Eventually, Pride would collapse in early 1983, and Adu would take Matthewman, keyboardist Andrew Hale, and bassist Paul Spencer Denman for her band, now called Sade, after Adu herself. Musically, we all had common ground, because we all loved classic soul records. We're all obsessed by soul, but we also loved imperfections. All the singers that Sade liked, they weren't necessarily technically perfect, but you hear their life in their music.
That's where
Equally,
it is,
we were
yes.
driven by punk, because it was a sort of fuck you DIY attitude.
Y'all, I love that. Wow. See, those singers that she liked, they weren't technically perfect, but you hear their life in their music. That's where it's at. That's what it's about. That's the difference between singers on those competition shows, America's Got Talent, or Britain's Got Talent, or The X Factor, The Voice, whatever. They all have that, like, not all of them, but the ones that I have noticed have that kind of Broadway, technically perfect way of singing, which is kind of boring. But some of them bring it. Some of them bring the vulnerability, and some of them are really great. I can't discount them. There's talent there for sure. But a lot of them are just like that vanilla Broadway. It's technically very well done, but there's no connection between their voice and their soul, you know? I would rather hear like Billie Holiday struggling to hit the notes, or that vibrato that we heard in that Cry Me a River cover. It's delicate. It's vulnerable. I want to hear it again.
Cry Me a River.
Well, you can cry me a river.
It's crying. Beautiful. And I love that they like punk. That's so awesome. Oh, this is great. I'm a fan.
Punk, because it was a sort of fuck you DIY attitude. With interest from labels, they needed a demo tape to shop around, but as they had no money to record, they asked producer and owner of Power Plant Studios, Robin Miller, if they could work out a deal using studio downtime.
Smart.
To which he agreed.
Yo, it's times like, I'm an audio engineer, and I've been staff engineers at studios, and I had the option to bring bands in, and I just wish Sade came to me and said, hey, will you record me? I would be like, yeah, get in the booth, Sade, for free. I'm doing it. Not even a spec deal. I don't want anything. I want you to shine. Oh, that's so great. Who's this? Robin Miller. Way to go, Robin. Smart.
Miller, if they could work out a deal using studio downtime, to which he agreed. The 2-track demo would feature Smooth Operator
No need to ask, he's a smooth operator.
and Your Love Is King.
Your love is king.
I don't know.
And the labels hated it. They all said the tracks were too long and too jazzy. They said, don't you know what's happening? Everything is electronic drums now. Tears for Fears
no.
and Depeche Mode. This was a bit of a blow, because when we'd play them to people who came by the studio, we got a fantastic reaction.
I mean, the record label people were not wrong. They were actually 100% right. Damn. I like to think that no matter how out of style music is, if it's well done, there's going to be an audience for it. The audience will find you. That's what I like to think that, but at the same time, these record label people are looking at money. They're like, we don't want to take a risk on this jazz, whatever it is. I understand that. They could have just put them with a producer to add some little electronic beeps and bops in there. Number one.
To try and get record companies more on board, they started to hype themselves up around London, helped in part by Adu's fashion scenester acquaintances, Robert Elms and Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Oh.
After getting on the cover of hip monthly magazine, The Face, Sade played a packed showcase gig at the Heaven nightclub.
Hang on, how'd she get on that magazine? Robert Elms and Jean-Paul Gaultier. I've heard of Jean-Paul Gaultier. So she knew him? That's a good connection.
After getting on the cover of hip monthly magazine, The Face, Sade played a packed showcase gig at the Heaven nightclub, with the entirety of London's music press invited. There were 1,000 people queuing up around the door of this little club.
Oh, that's
Suddenly,
good press.
all those same record companies who turned them down were crawling all over Sade. They were desperate
record
to
label.
sign her.
We're about to be signed. We don't know who to, but there's like three or four of the major companies are after us, and it's sort of even at the moment.
In October
bidding war.
1983, Adu herself was signed to Epic, with Matthewman, Hale and Denman coming under contract before the end of 1984.
Okay.
Though there were more lucrative deals involving setting her up in America and working with R&B heavyweight Quincy Jones and his team. Adu wanted to stick with her band and Robin Miller, who she was creatively comfortable with. The Epic deal gave her a 15% cut on sales, granted her complete creative freedom, and the choice to release music at a rate that suited her.
That's a good deal, y'all. 15% of sales? That's really good. And she got to keep her band? That's loyalty. Good for her. I love this woman. I would like to meet her. Yeah, I could see the record label saying, we just want you. The rest of the band we can replace with less risky folks. More proven. But she said no. Those are my boys. It's a package deal. Way to go, Sade. Or Adu. Way to go, Adu. I love you.
Be comfortable with. The Epic deal gave her a 15% cut on sales, granted her complete creative freedom, and the choice to release music at a rate that suited her. This would become invaluable as the 80s wore on.
Okay. Writing and recording Diamond Life, 1983 to 84, Stripped Back, Smooth Operator, and Yuppies.
In October 1983, the band returned to Power Plant Studios with Miller to complete their debut album. Here was where Sade truly found their minimalist sound. a sound that synced up with their relative inexperience as musicians. The songs ended up being really simple and stripped down. The reason for that was because none of us were great musicians, but we all sounded good. Sade had a gorgeous voice, but she wasn't a trained singer. Same thing with me. I could get a nice sound with my sax, but I never studied jazz.
Yo, this is great. This is very wise of them. Sometimes people come into the studio and try to play beyond their abilities. It's not the time for that. Play beyond your abilities when you're rehearsing or when you're practicing by yourself. When you're recording or performing, like, keep it within your abilities, you know? Like, fool people. Fake it till you make it, right? Shows confidence, sounds good. And also, in general, when you're recording, it's better to be simple and leave out any extra flourishes. You want to leave room for people to put in their own little flourishes in their mind, you know? You need space, you know what I'm saying? This was very wise. These are wise people. Everyone involved is wise.
Same thing with me. I could get a nice sound with my sax, but I never studied jazz. Andrew would play simple chords, and Paul was a simple bass player. If any of us had been 10 or 20% better as musicians, it would have been horrible. It would have been too much. What made us sound special is that we were young and naive, and we didn't really know what we were doing. The focus though was always Adu's voice, unassuming yet sensuous. Never as outright powerful as her heroes, but imbued with the gift of conveying passion and emotion. She would also...
Oh, yo. Yeah. She's also singing within her abilities. She's not trying to go super high, super low, super loud. She's just keeping it within her thing. This is what I do. This is my thing. This is my sound. This is where I sound best. Wise.
She would also write the majority of the tunes herself, humming the melodies into a tape recorder, so that the band could interpret it into music. Sade has got a great ear. She writes all the words and gets all the tunes worked out in her head. When she gets into something, she just plows on and on. Me, Andrew, Paul, or whoever, just put the chords down. But somehow, Sade never really gets any credit for being a songwriter at all.
Huh. I've heard that that's how Michael Jackson also did it. He would sing parts. I don't think he plays an instrument, though. Maybe he plays piano. I bet he'd be an amazing drummer. He's dead now.
But somehow, Sade never really gets any credit for being a songwriter at all. Alongside the band's spare musicianship were the arrangements by Miller. The iconic Latin-inspired bongos, pedaled throughout, were his idea.
Good idea.
Though from a production point of view, he was coming from a similar angle as the band's influences. Atlantic soul, but with an amateur British spin. We don't sit around and say, right, we're gonna create this sound. It happens too naturally for us to even intellectualize about it. When we write a song, it's just, there it goes.
That's good.
Our music is clearly pop, because it's easy to understand. All the songs I've ever loved, even the jazz stuff, are things that tell a story. It should take you somewhere and move you in some way. And that's what I want our songs to do.
Yo, this is great. They're not overthinking it. This is the right mindset. They're playing within their abilities. They're not overthinking their productions, their songs. It's just doing it. Great.
The highlight is the album's opening track, Smooth Operator. Co-written by former Pride member Raymond St. John, the song's lyrics give the album its title. And weaves the tale of a globe-trotting, smooth-talking bad boy who Adu knows is trash, but finds irresistible. It opens with a spoken word section to set the scene. Akin to hero Gil Scott-Heron, but Adu evoking sultry indifference rather than politicized rage.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised.
Hale's subtle keyboards and Denman's complementary bass give the atmosphere of moonlit walks on a Mediterranean beach. but even with Matthewman's sax solos punctuating the track. No one seems to be trying super hard, giving it its laid-back vibe. Sade's songs were often autobiographical or based on something that had happened to those close to her, though most swirled around the themes of the heart. Your Love is King, for example, is love at its most overtly sexual. Second single, When Am I Gonna Make a Living, was their version of the Valentine Brothers' Money's Too Tight to Mention.
Money's too tight to mention.
That's a good phrase.
Written in response to her frustrations at a poor financial situation and having to live in a squat in an abandoned fire station.
Like the Ghostbusters.
I can remember in the Pride days, walking from Turnpike Lane Tube. It was pouring and I was soaking wet, pissed off and miserable. I got my pen out and started to write When Am I Gonna Make a Living on a soggy envelope. I got halfway through and the pen stopped working. That song's our anthem now. In part due to its single sleeve, showing the all too glamorous Sade. The UK music press would misinterpret the song as an aspirational anthem for yuppiedom. The link between Sade's music and the money-hungry young professionals, their soundtrack for coke parties and buying low, selling high, would plague the band in the UK for the rest of their career.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah, the 80s yuppie thing is crazy, isn't it? Because those yuppies were hippies. They went hippie, yuppie, boomer. I guess they're all boomers, but funny how that works. Generations. Okay. There's a Quiet Storm. 1984, Your Love is King, Press Snobbery, and Quiet Storm.
Epic saw Sade as an album band, to which the band agreed. But then their first single, Your Love is King, went number 6 in the UK chart.
Hey!
Appearing on Top of the Pops during the reign of synth pop, Sade clearly didn't fit in. Everything got a bit electronic, and we weren't into that at all. On our first Top of the Pops, we looked like we'd landed from Mars, all dressed in black, and we didn't smile. We were of our time, but not in time with what was going on around us. Not knowing what to do with them, the UK press at large began awkwardly lumping Sade in with the sophisticated likes of the Style Council,
Okay, yeah, that's
Simply
similar.
Red,
Very similar.
and Prefab Sprout.
Never heard of them.
Post-punk groups for 80s yuppies, dubbed sophistopop, or particularly for Sade, corporate jazz.
Corporate
I'm
jazz.
frightened for anyone for 1 minute thinking we're trying to be a jazz band, because if we were, we could do it a lot better than we're doing now. In the Thatcher squeezed 1980s, the UK press wanted their music working class and hard scrabble. They championed the underdog. Their interpretation of Sade didn't align with this. They didn't have enough
makes
grit.
sense.
Despite being dirt poor, they gave off an air of refinement, of moneyed elegance. Never underestimate the dividing power of the British class system, which maintains snobbery on all levels. With its wine bar smoothness and Latin percussion, their third single and second top 20 hit, Smooth Operator, was a tongue-in-cheek condemnation of an international lover boy.
Yo, yeah, but I see what they're saying about them not fitting in with everything else that was on Top of the Pops, but I feel like what they're doing is classic. It's always in style, to some degree. Maybe not top of the charts, but there's a market for that, especially with those yuppies, you know? Maybe an older crowd? Simply Red, like they were saying, yeah. Yeah.
Was a tongue-in-cheek condemnation of an international lover boy. But that was lost in translation, and instead it was seen more as a promotion of exotic glamour. Additionally, Adu herself tired of interviews, journalists rarely wanting to ask her anything about music, instead focusing on her looks, fashion and sex life, Oftentimes, she would find her words misrepresented. I came to think that those tape machines the journalists use would just scramble what you say, like a liquidizer. It's terrible, this mentality that if something seems simple, there must be something funny going on. Beyond the release of Diamond Life, Adu would rarely give interviews, especially to the UK press. In her silence, tabloids would amuse themselves by printing fanciful fictional tales of Adu giving birth or buying Fulham Football Club.
Whoa, I've heard the UK press can be pretty yellow doggy, but that's kind of out there. I think it's great when a performer decides to not give interviews because it creates mystery, and that's perfect for their vibe, you know. Good call. I do.
On the other side of the Atlantic, things were very different indeed. Whereas in the UK, for the most part, there were the BBC radio stations, playing a mix of everything. The US had a genre-specific model. Sade felt that if they went straight for the pop market with a smooth operator, it might kill their long-term credibility. In an attempt to foster a strong base in the US black radio markets, in November 1984, Hang On To Your Love was pushed as Sade's first stateside single, due to its comparative funkiness.
Okay.
I don't like segregation. Music is something that should be available to all people. When you go into a club, there's no color bar on the dance floor. So why should it apply to radio stations?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it does.
Yeah.
It does not only apply to black and white. It also applies to heavy metal, pop, all that.
Yeah.
It's such a big place with such big corporations everywhere that in order to feel safe, they have to categorize things.
Oh, that's wise. Adu is wise. I've never heard a bud like that, but she's right. It's such a big place with such big corporations everywhere that in order to feel safe, they have to categorize things. In order to feel safe, they have to categorize. That's true. We create borders, walls to feel safe.
While the UK press eyed Sade suspiciously, US R&B radio fell head over heels for them.
Yeah.
The group were perfect for what is known as the Quiet Storm radio format, named after Smokey Robinson's 1975 song of the same name. The late-night programming slot had existed since the late 70s, home to slow jams, smooth R&B,
Isley Brothers.
and wistful soul. And was
I really like Michael McDonald. I think it was Melissa Villaseñor. She used to be a cast member of Saturday Night Live. I think it was her. It may have been someone else. Who was it? I don't remember exactly who it was, but I heard them say that to do a Michael McDonald impersonation or impression, you use the voice that comes out when you yawn. So like, I keep forgetting I don't love anymore. That's my Michael McDonald. It's brilliant.
and was must-listen radio for the romantically inclined, and the burgeoning subsection of middle-class, professional black suburbanites, and alongside other similar sexily smooth acts like Luther Vandross, Anita Baker, and Loose Ends. Sade became a staple of Quiet Storm radio.
Fits right
Their
into
1985 hit, The Sweetest Taboo, even references the format by name.
Oh. Wow. I could totally... They fit right into that category. I'm actually surprised that that wasn't big in the UK. With the soul movement, people liking soul so much. I'm not very good at the business of being a pop star. 1985, Sade disappears. So many records sold, and Drake, quote, Sade Adu, Vanity Fair, April 1988. Is it a crime?
Well, 1984 was the year of the ascent of Sade. 1985 was when it all came together. At the 85 Brit Awards, Diamond Life won Best British Album, while Smooth Operator was nominated for Best Single, losing out to the electronic vogue of Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Relax.
Well, that's a hard one to beat, you know? That was probably played in so many clubs. I mean, that was on another level of grassroots.
Separate from the rumour-mongering and elitist UK press, America at large dove deep into Sade, taking them to heart much more so than their homeland. Smooth Operator went top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100, as well as topping the adult contemporary charts, no doubt helped by play on the new adult-centric music channel, VH1. That said, Diamond Life would go 3 times platinum in the UK by the end of 1985. But it would take until 95 for the album to get the same multiple platinum status in the US.
Really?
Sade would also win Best Newcomer at the Grammys in 85, and would also be the only female-fronted act to play the UK leg of Live Aid.
Wow. Y'all, usually getting that Best Newcomer award is a kiss of death. If you look at the list of artists who got that, a lot of them you never hear from again.
Sade would also win Best Newcomer at the Grammys in 85, and would also be the only female-fronted act to play the UK leg of Live Aid. Later in 85, Sade would follow up with their sophomore album Promise, with its mega-hit lead single, The Sweetest Taboo. The band would never again release a follow-up this efficiently, their fans having to wait 3 years for 1988's Stronger Than Pride, then a further 5 years for 92's Love Deluxe. Today, after almost 40 years of being a band, Sade have only released 6 albums, a symptom of Adu's perfectionism and shying away from the public spotlight. But unlike the conventional wisdom that absence will make the audience forget about you, Sade's records have continued to sell in the millions.
There's a great quote by Lorne Michaels, the producer and mastermind behind the show Saturday Night Live. He says, you can't come back if you've not gone away, right? Like referring to how being a performer, entertainer, you come in, you're around for a while, you drop back, stay out of the press for a bit, just long enough. So when you come back, people are like, oh yeah. A lot of rock bands wait for years between albums. I'm thinking Metallica, Red Hot Chili Peppers offhand, but that's a tough balance, you know? I know the Beatles released an album every 6 months, and that worked for them, but other bands I don't think could do that. But that was a different time. You know, that was the 60s. I don't know, it's a tough balance. I think it works for them though.
Sade's records have continued to sell in the millions, with 75 million records sold worldwide.
That'll pay the bills.
Sade is the 3rd best-selling British female artist of all time, after Adele and the Spice Girls.
Right on.
Sade's influence has been widespread and essential to the shape of modern music, from metalheads like Faith No More's Mike Patton and Deftones, to the more R&B centric likes of Frank Ocean, D'Angelo, Alicia Keys, The Weeknd, Blood Orange, FKA Twigs, Miguel, Beyonce, all having a soft spot for the velvet voiced crooner. Perhaps the biggest name in music from the last decade, Drake is obsessed. He has 2 separate tattoos in tribute to Adu, while he has always stated that his mumbled 2 a.m. vibes on early releases were him trying to replicate the feel of Sade.
I should call one and go home. I've been in this club too long.
He also sampled I Will Be Your Friend on Free Spirit.
Tell a bad bitch, girl, let's go hang. You know me, Rolex go chain. Fuck my young niggas, that's so gang.
And I would not be surprised if Drake happened upon the sample of Hotline Bling via Sade's cover that closes Diamond Life.
When you need my
Smooth Operator itself has become a standard in TV and film for implying sensual goings-on, in a similar way to Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On or Serge Gainsbourg's Je T'aime. Hip-hop has also taken the verbiage of Smooth Operator for their own, being referenced by Rakim,
a smooth operator operating correctly,
Big Daddy Kane,
So let's groove with the smooth operator.
and Snoop Dogg.
coast to coast, LA to Chicago.
In 2018, Pitchfork would name Diamond Life as the 10th best album of the 1980s, beating out Joy Division's Closer, The Smiths' The Queen is Dead, and New Order's Power, Corruption and Lies.
I think that's a good choice. 10th best album of the 80s. That's pretty good. Sade. Adu. Well done. There are a lot of albums made in the 80s, and you got the 10th best one?
As the 10th best album of the 1980s, beating out...
I'm curious what Pitchfork said on the other ones. Smooth operator. 200. I gotta go through. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna scroll down. Oh, ads are loading. Okay. Joy Division was 12. Eric B. and Rakim was 11. Sade Diamond Life, number 10. Number 9 is The Cure, Disintegration. Number 8 is Janet Jackson, Control. Oh my god, that was a huge album. Oh wait, no. I'm thinking of Rhythm Nation. But I think that came out in the 90s. Rhythm Nation was huge. Sonic Youth, Daydream Nation, Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Talking Heads, Remain in Light. Kate Bush, Hounds of Love. NWA, Straight Outta Compton, yeah! Michael Jackson, Thriller's number 2? Hang on. What's number 1? What is number 1? What would number 1 be? What's bigger than Thriller? Born in the USA? Thinking Bruce Springsteen or maybe Madonna? Who's bigger than Michael Jackson? I know as soon as I scroll down, I'm going to feel like an idiot. Let's see. Purple Rain. Okay. I hope Prince was alive to see this. Because he and Michael had a feud.
Named Diamond Life as the 10th best album of the 1980s.
Well done.
Beating out Joy Division's Closer, The Smiths' The Queen is Dead, and New Order's Power, Corruption and Lies. Sade was a British take on classic soul, built to abate the conservative crunch of Thatcher. It was the musical equivalent of a warm bath, Adu's voice melting your worries away, and that is why their impact remains. A revolution in R&B, succeeding with a whisper rather than a roar.
Yes, I love that. Yes!
Thanks for watching.
You're
What's
welcome.
your favourite Sade track? Are you more about Is It a Crime
Smooth
or
Operator.
By My Side? Comment down below and like, subscribe and hit that bell to be notified for future Trash Theory videos.
Y'all be sure to go to Trash Theory and like and subscribe. They do all these great documentaries. What is Sade up to now? Show me on Apple Music. Sade. It's their last release. 2010. Wow. Oh my god. They don't have many albums, do they? Okay, Diamond Life in 84. Promise in 85. Stronger Than Pride in 88. Love Deluxe in 92. That's a 4-year gap. And then Lovers Rock, an 8-year gap. And then Soldier of Love's a 10-year gap. Wow, it's been 14 years. Oh, wow, that's a very different sound for them. What's the latest on them? September 2020, Sade announced a remastered vinyl set of its 6 albums. The box set titled This Far was released on October 9th, 2020. Their engineer and co-producer, Mike Pela, died in 2022. Music to their hypothetical 7th album had been recorded in summer of 2022 at the rebuilt Miraval Studios. Wow, I have a lot of respect for them, and her in particular. Like being a woman singer in the 80s in a band with a bunch of dudes, that was a different world back then. You can't imagine what she must have put up with, you know? So many unwanted advances. I can only imagine. Probably every day. Well, glad she's still around. She's still doing it. Are they performing at all? Are they active? I know they haven't put out an album in 14 years, but let's just see what else is on the YouTube. The Sweetest Taboo, live from San Diego. There she is. She looks just like she did in the 80s. What the And her voice sounds good. Oh, it's tight. Double kick drum. Alright. Yeah, I know I can't play this on YouTube, so I'm probably cutting most of it out, but that sounds tight. This is from 9 years ago? Wow. Holy crap. Amazing. What a talent. I love the story. They're so wise. I love the story. It's so inspiring. Good for them. Ah. Way to go, Sade. I'm proud of you. Proud of you. Y'all be sure to go to Trash Theory and like and subscribe. If you made it this far in the video, how about giving me a like and subscribe? I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see y'all next time. Later. Smooth operator.